nothing. After the game, Terry Bradshaw came in the locker room and said to me, "Can you get me out of here? Can you trade for me?" And I said to him, "Listen, I love you. I got enough problems. I got Stable, I got Blanda, I still had LaMonica. And I can't get you, but let me put in a good word for you." Chuck Noll had been a close friend, and probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done. Said to him, "Why the hell don't you play Bradshaw and stop playing Gilliam? Bradshaw can win for you." He put Bradshaw back in the lineup. They beat us in the championship game in '74. They beat us in the championship game in '75. And we had our hands full with the Steelers from then on. Because Good Me raised his hand and suggested that they ought to start Bradshaw.
Davis believed in giving players a fresh start in an era when few franchises offered second chances.
In the old days, usually when you got let go, that was it. They used you up and moved you on. Except if Al wanted to take you.
We may take a player in who doesn't have good social habits or has been a failure somewhere else, but it's predicated on bringing them into an environment that can inspire in them the will to do great. And they have done great.
There were a lot of retreads with the Raiders, and he'd get great use out of them.
Snap back, looking right now. He'll never look again. Not this time, as Alfredo gets another sack.
How can I use a guy like Billy Cannon? How can I use a guy like Willie Brown? How can I use a guy like Matusek? I mean, on down the line, he had a plan when he brought those guys in there.
Even the bad guys that nobody else wanted end up going to the Raiders and becoming great ball players. And I think you attribute that to Al Davis dealing with people.
When you have to lead men, you don't do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You do unto them in a paramilitary situation as they want to be done unto. You have to treat them the way they want to be treated.
In the 1960s and 70s, minority players and white players weren't always treated equally.
Certain positions, you saw no black players. Most offensive lines, you had white players. Quarterback position, there were none.
I came in the league in 1967. We used to say, well, we can have a convention of the black offensive linemen in a phone booth. It wasn't that many of us doing it.
And the Raiders, behind these blockers, show up, so they block out the sun.
We went into many of the predominant black schools to take a lot of the players. We called it an untapped reservoir. We wanted to win. We wanted the best players. We weren't interested in who they were or exactly where they came from.
That included Eldridge Dickey, the first African-American quarterback to be drafted in the first round.
Gosh, that was a huge step for Al Davis. There was so much against him for that. They had tapped and got tackles and receivers, but here you're talking about a position where it has been orientated that this, quote, black man cannot lead. I could see what he was seeing. I could see him seeing beyond complexion. Al was saying, let it go. You're stifling the growth of a game.
Almost 2/3 of the NFL players are black, but there has never been a black head coach in pro football.
The decisions as to who gets to play and who gets to coach are made by white owners and white general managers.
I just don't know that owners have looked at black coaches as people they can be comfortable with.
But those white traditionalists who controlled the game are being replaced by more pragmatic owners led by Al Davis of the Los Angeles Raiders.
I think if any guy will be able to do it, would probably be Al Davis. I'm for you, Al. My hat's off to you.
I've always said it's not important to be consistent. It's important to be right.
In 1989, Davis made Art Shell the first African-American coach of the modern era.
One thing you got to understand is the only way to play this game is you got to get down in the dirt and get nasty. Let's go.
He said, but I want you to know one thing. I'm not hiring you because you're black. I'm hiring you because I feel that you are the best possible candidate for this job at this time.
Art Shell has won in his Raider debut.
He is no longer the first black coach in the NFL. He's just a winning coach right now.
They asked Art Shell
how does it feel to be the first minority coach? And he said, I'm not the first minority coach. And they looked at him in puzzlement, and they said, well, who was? He said, Tom Flores was the first minority coach.
10 years earlier, Davis had hired Tom Flores, a Hispanic coach with Raiders heritage. As a player, he was the first quarterback of the Raiders. As a coach, his roster included Jim Plunkett, a former #1 overall pick, who had failed in New England and San Francisco.
I think the Raiders was the only organization who could have really pumped some life in Jim Plunkett.
Back is Plunkett. Time to throw. Deep to the end zone to Branch. It is caught by Branch. Touchdown Raiders.
Here's a guy that I watched the New England get beat to a pulp. And all of a sudden, he's Super Bowl MVP.
Jim Plunkett climaxing his greater comeback as sports has ever witnessed.
This was our finest hour. This was the finest hour in the history of the Oakland Raiders. To Tom Flores, the coaches, and the great athletes, you were magnificent out there today.
You got 30 minutes of better football, so you're 30 minutes away from football, and it's all ours. Don't let up. Don't let up. Let's go.
Tom Flores isn't just a great coach in our league. He's one of the great coaches of all time. When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. That's why. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. That's why. Just win.
The French came calling. French picked Roselle. He had a silver slipper. He tried it on, and the only man that fit was Al Davis.
How did the NFL's man in black describe himself?
Devious, ruthless, cunning.
Al Davis's dark side, next. For Al Davis, just win, baby, meant sometimes bending the rules.
I'm going to dominate if I can, other than maybe life or death. The things that I want, I'm going to dominate them.
Raider rule number 1, cheating is encouraged. Raider rule number 2, see rule number 1.
We had a guy named George Anderson who was our trainer. George was an expert in pets, probably most of them illegal. What he did was he took the stuff from like you make queso, and then he molded it for me. What I essentially had was QCAS. So when I hit somebody, boom, that was my first shot, right to the eye. I could take them down if they hit them just perfect.
I mean, if they were illegal or not, you know, I'm not sure. Anything that you're wearing has to be checked by the umpire in the pregame warm-up. Of course, you could not wear it in the pregame warm-up and then put it out for the game. I know that.
If they were to use the word devious just by itself, it would be annoying for the moment, but when you throw it in, they like to throw it in with, as I said, brilliant, genius, winner, devious, ruthless, cunning. No, I'll take it.
Take it. Al Davis loved it. He liked being the rogue, playing the villain.
This was Al Davis's character. Clearly, this guy was a carnivore from the get-go.
The Raiders' red meat was always the rough stuff. And fights were frequent occurrences.
They broke down at the 28-yard line. Here's the flag. And here's Ben Davidson being jumped on by one of the Chiefs. Two more Chiefs come in. There's a big pile up. Davidson and Taylor are going at it. Here come all the Raiders. Holy Toledo. It's a free-for-all.
I just like to fight. I went to Bowling Green. If I threw a punch, they sent me back to New Jersey. When I was with the Raiders, if I threw a punch, that was good, as long as it was at the right guy.
One thing they'll do is take a swing at you. If you hit them good, they'll take a swing. There's 4 or 5 guys that are demented on that team.
Short fuses went a long way with the Raiders, and playing with a clenched fist was a point of pride. It also meant open season on stars of opposing teams, like Lynn Swann.
The blow was illegal, delivered with what would seem to be some type of malice.
To some, the hits were criminal. To the Raiders, just part of the game.
Chuck Noll said that they were the criminal element of the NFL, but that was the way that those guys played.
They played that way because Al Davis wanted it that way. The harder the hits, the more the Raiders' reputation grew. Truth is, the Raiders never did play well with others. And Al Davis was never a favorite of other owners. He didn't help matters when in 1982, he sued the NFL to move his team to Los Angeles.
I think his entire life since the merger has been consumed with getting back at the National Football League.
The thing that disturbed me most of all was the bad faith and fair dealing. For 3 years, I waited to hear Commissioner Rozelle finally tell us the reason that he wanted to split up this territory amongst the owners. They wanted it for themselves.
I feel very strongly that he is wrong, that he's doing something treacherous for this league.
What do you think of Al Davis trying to come to Los Angeles?
Well, I don't care to discuss that. That's better get that from Al Davis.
Davis was never a popular figure because he's an abrasive kind of guy. And his insistence on dominating and winning everything tends to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Doing warm-ups before the game, he would come around and walk around our team, and he would say things like, "How you doing today? You know, you're looking sharp." And you know he didn't really mean it. He was coming over to get an edge. And I thought that was pretty crappy.
As a former head coach of the Raiders, Mike Shanahan knew just how to deal with his old boss's tactic.
We're on the 10-yard line and we're going out of the end zone. And Al is about the 25 or 30-yard line out in the numbers, just with his hands folded and, watching our team. And the players said, "Hey, Coach, we can't run anything over there. Tell them to get out of the way." I said, "Elvis," I said, "Throw a go route. And if you happen to get the ball close to that guy in the white outfit over there," I said, "you won't bother me."
So Elvis takes the ball and throws it as hard as he can at Al Davis's head. The last second, Al ducks out of the way and it almost hits him. He looks over and he sees Mike, and Mike's over there waving at him.
And he flips me off. Flips me off back to the huddle because he probably knew where it came from. But from that time on, I've never seen him on that side of the 50.
We just do that if it's Al Davis. We don't get the X.
When you're fighting all the time, you're fighting with the commissioner, you're fighting to move to LA, you're fighting in court, you're fighting with the city of Irwindale, you're fighting with the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. When it's always a fight, I just believe that saps organizational energy. And I also believe that when there's so much paranoia festering and this everyone's against us.
As far as good faith, there's no question in my mind that I've never got the same treatment that anyone else got in their respective cities from the very beginning.
That keeps you from asking the hard questions as an organization.
Like, how do you fire head coaches at the rate of nearly one a year for the past decade? Or set a mark for losing that may never be matched? Up next, find out how the team for all decades turned the last one into a lost decade.
As Marie Lombardi once wrote Caroli and I, that's Carol, my wife, a note after we had won our first Super Bowl: "Enjoy it now, because fame is fleeting." And she wrote again, "Enjoy it while you can."
Al Davis often spoke of the torch that lights the way for the Oakland Raiders. But in 2001, that flame began to flicker. After the Tuck Rule game, Davis traded head coach John Gruden to Tampa Bay. In 2002, the Raiders made it to the Super Bowl for the first time in 2 decades. There, they were beaten by a familiar face.
The Tigers in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Still, it was easy to envision Davis soon accepting another Lombardi trophy. In the new millennium, however, his trips up to the podium took on a far different tone.
Bill Callahan, as he carries the torch. He carries the torch for us all now.
Guy who I'm tapping, and the Raiders are tapping to lead us back.
I say it with pride. I want you to meet, ladies and gentlemen, Norvell Turner.
Bart Shill.
Tom Cable. We all feel good about this. Yeah. Oh, great. No, you feel good about it. That's all. Just gotta win. Passion.
In Oakland, good feelings didn't last long, nor did coaches. Not with at least 11 losses in 7 straight seasons, an NFL record.
This morning, I called Lane and told him that he no longer is the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, and I'm dismissing him with cause.
He was so into trying to get this team turned around. He was trying so many things.
I just want to win, baby. That's it.
Committed to excellence.
Davis tried what worked in the past, but high-priced cast-offs went bust, as did high-profile draft picks. Other selections raised eyebrows, like the kicker taken in the first round.
Big, physical. It was the New York Yankees and it was the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that's really who Sebastian Janikowski was. He could hit the home run.
When he drafted somebody and they thought, well, that was a dumb pick, he didn't care.
The Oakland Raiders select Darius Hayward Bay. That is a classic Al Davis pick. The fastest guy at the combine. My issue is inconsistent hands. That is way earlier than he should have been picked.
It sure seemed like his eye for talent jumped the shark, but in retrospect, did it? You get Jacoby Ford deep in the 2010 draft, and you get Denarius Moore in the 5th round of the 2011 draft.
It is caught by Denarius Moore.
You see those guys play, it's tough to say, wow, he's completely lost his touch.
Maybe his was still one of the game's great minds. But as the old coach approached his 80s, it was getting harder and harder to stay on the sidelines.
I think he was in a lot of pain. He always wanted to show strength, even in times of despair. He always wanted to be the strength of the organization. No one knows what it's like to be in those shoes and to feel like you can't do the things you used to be able to do.
In 2011, Davis passed the torch one final time, hiring Hugh Jackson, who called Al Davis coach.
When you can have talks with your boss about the actual X's and O's, this is the first place I've been dealing with the owner where I can do that. There's nobody else that I've ever had to draw anything on the board for. And that's why I call him coach, because he can still talk football with me.
On October 8th, 2011, Al Davis passed away.
Al, we love you. We know that you're watching over this team. We love you. And we're going to keep playing. We're going to keep playing like Raiders for you. We're going to keep honoring this man all year. You guys know what this is for, man. Love the guy. It's on you, James. Let's go, man. Let's go. Wait on 3. 1, 2, 3, man.
Houston, the day after. The Raiders fell behind before the autumn wind began to blow.
Hugh clearly was, I'm going after this in Al's memory.
The direct snap on Cartwright, first down. They fake the punt.
I'm not going to play this conservative game and just try to eke out a win.
Trust in the players. Players will make plays. Players that were unconventional picks.
Catch it. They break a tackle on your goal. He broke it.
Here comes Darius Hayward Bay to make a play and turn into what Al thought he could be.
Touchdown!
He took a kicker. Why would you do that? Here comes the big field goals, long field goals, powerful field goals, the type of kicker that Al envisioned him to be.
He has made 3 from 50 yards today. Here we go. Win the game or lose the game. It's all right here. Matt Schaub on the gun. First and goal. Back. Final play. Time. He can run for it. He pumps down. He throws. It's intercepted by Michael Huff. The Oakland Raiders have won the game.
On the game's final play, the Raiders had only 10 men on the field.
If I'm pitching that script, when they read that, they take a pen and go, give me a break. Al was on the field. He was the 11th guy. It's Hollywood.
Hugh Jackson, Tom, is just sobbing into his hands.
They found a way to do it, and in the end, it was a just win.
Hardball win, man. Hardball win, man. Losing that man hurt me more than you know. But you know what? Just like I told you, I know he loves you guys. Just like he loves his coaching staff and his organization.
Last question. What do you mean when you say the greatness of the Raiders is in the future?
We have young people in very key spots now running our organization. While those people can use the past as a guide and can live in the tradition and the history of the organization, someone has to take this group into the future and make sure that they have greatness.
Davis often spoke of the torch. Now, his legacy will light the way for the franchise he made great. He was the only man to be an assistant coach, a head coach, a GM, a commissioner, and an owner. But perhaps the only title that truly matters is this. Al Davis was, and will always be, a Raider.
Just win, baby.